Hi, this is Joe. I'm going to talk about the S&P 500 index, and we're going to look at the Nasdaq, and then I'm going to show you some trade setups in the QQQ that have developed over the last few weeks. And I want to show you when the conditions are really prime for playing, especially like swing trading opportunities in the marketplace. And so, the conditions right now with the low volatility actually improve the conditions for something like doing swing trading. So I'm going to show you a few different trades that took place there. Let's get into the charts. Starting out with the S&P, I want to make sure that we've got 4 time frames up at once, and it's very important to understand how you want to have trend alignment in place. And if you notice, we've got a rising 18 above a 40 on the monthly chart. We now have a rising 18 above a rising 40 on the weekly chart. We've had for a while now, we've had the 18 above the 40 and both lines rising on the daily chart. And now we have an hourly in the same position. So again, this has happened several times, and I know I've brought it up before, but it's important to continue to focus on the simple things. Do a few simple things on a regular basis and you'll be very, very successful. Get them ingrained in your head and have a good solid foundation to what you're doing. So when I look at this, I see all 4 time frames really qualifying as a trend right now. Whenever I see 18 above the 40 and both lines rising, to me that's sort of confirming evidence of the trend. Now, it might be late evidence, and it might be giving you confirming evidence in a little bit of a late signal sometimes, but having that condition in place tells me, that the trend is up. So, and if we're doing that in 4 time frames, it's hard to be overly bearish right now. There are a few things, obviously, with the sentiment numbers. We've gotten up 60% of the sentiment numbers that for Investors Intelligence, 60% of the people are bullish. That's a pretty high number. It's the highest number it's been all year. And so, I think that does raise a little bit of a cautionary flag. But again, I use that as a backup. It's a secondary indicator for me. Price always plays the most important role when I'm looking at what's taking place in the market. So if we go and zero in on the daily chart, I just want to make sure you understand that, again, I keep a close eye on this ADX. And if you see what's taking place, we've got it's not a very volatile condition. You see how the blue line is moving up and it's not ratcheting around or doing anything crazy. It's just moving up at a pretty steady rate. And the green line continues to confirm every new high. Green is the strength of the buyers. The red is the strength of the sellers. And as long as this red line keeps making lower highs and lower lows, that's telling us that there's really no selling in the marketplace right now. So we're going to need to see this red line actually make a higher high. If I were to go and draw in just quickly put in a little trend line here, horizontal trend line, that's really, we need to see the red DI show that the sellers have got some strength. Because as long as this is making lower highs and lower lows, we know that the sellers have no strength. I want to look at the hourly chart very quickly. I left up the lines that from last week's video about the market. And one of the things I wanted to make sure you understand is that even if we break a trend line, which is what took place here, and then we came down and then we started to rally up and test, the reason why I like to wait for the trend line, this horizontal line, to be broken to confirm the downtrend is because a lot of times you will not, all this is an alert. It's a bear alert, but it's not bear confirmed. So if you get 2 of the 3 pieces of a change in trend in place, especially in a short-term time frame like this, there are a lot of times where, if you just assume that we're going to go get hit 3 and take out this horizontal line, that you're gonna lose money because the trend isn't going to actually shift. It's going to do exactly what took place here. All it did was reverse back to the upside. So notice how the ADX really exploded on the hourly. So we've got both the daily and the hourly showing very good momentum strength right now. As long as these lines are rising and are rising at about the same rate, I think this is in pretty good shape. I want to show you something very quickly about the Nasdaq. Let's just take a look at all 4 again. all 4 time frames have an 18 above the 40 and both lines rising. That means the condition in each one of these time frames or each one of the price structures are confirmed uptrends. I want to zero in on the daily chart. I have a trend line that I've drawn in, and one of the things I mentioned last time, I was looking at the QQQ, but this is basically the same pattern. It's this very, very similar setup right now. And if you notice what's taking place, I actually have this trend line in place that's been in place since April. And we started in April, and then we tested it in early May, and then again another time in May, and then we tested it again in June, late June, again in July, and then at the beginning of August. So this line is time tested. And one of the things I wanted to mention to you about trend lines is if we've tested an area, tested a line 3 times, if it's been touched 3 times or more, and it's been around at least 3 months, you've got a pretty important trend line in place and one that you want to keep an eye on. What's taking place right now is we haven't tested in a little bit. And so this could be another condition that we should be concerned about. If this doesn't come back and test fairly soon, then it might jet away to the upside, and that would be a sign of some type of climatic activity. As long as these 2 lines, the 18 and the 40, keep rising at about the same rate, there's really no major cause for concern. And so that is how I would consider looking for like a strong trend. I'm always trying to eyeball and look for trends or stocks where in any specific time frame, we've got an 18 and a 40 rising at about the same rate. It's a big, huge benefit to have a trend line in place that's been tested several times to sort of confirm what you're seeing. And then if you look at the ADX here, notice how it's spending a lot of its time over the last couple months above 25. It did dip below it for a short period of time, but pretty much for the last 2 months, it's been above 25. And that's another confirming evidence, piece of evidence that the trend is strong. Let's take a look at the QQQ. And again, the same pattern is taking place. We've got strong ADX conditions on the daily. And then we've also got a really beautiful looking 18 and 40 pattern. And again, they're rising at about the same rate. So I'm looking at this period starting right about here. Let's look at this right about this level, and then all the way through really up until right this point right now. So all through this period, I would consider this primo trend action. And when I see primo trend action on one time frame, I want to go down to the lower time frame and look for all the opposing trend setups as triggers. So essentially starting in May, I would be going down to an hourly chart, and we're going to look at the hourly right now. And I'm actually going to squish this chart a little bit just so you can see all the signals that have taken place during this period. Yeah, so there's the green line right here that's showing the beginning of that period where we had pretty strong trending conditions taking place on the daily chart. And if you notice right here, there was a buy signal, and I'm not sure about that one. Right here was a buy signal. Right here was a buy signal. I actually did another video showing some of these, but they've just continued to show up. Another signal here. There was another buy signal here. These are all based on the pattern that I showed you that we backtested 10 years on. We did it on a daily and a weekly, and we did it on a weekly and a monthly. But I'm actually showing you the hourly and daily combo, and I'm just saying it works in all time frames, and it will show up over and over again. The most important thing I think to identify is make sure on the higher time frame you have a condition in place that is solid, meaning 18 above the 40, both lines rising. I'm going to be doing some other videos, some videos coming up on some other indicators. I'm actually going to show you how I use RSI next week. I think it's another very simple way to use momentum in a slightly different fashion. And I'm going to show you it's actually a single time frame pattern that you can look for. If you see it in one specific time frame, it's actually pretty powerful. So anyway, make sure you hit that like button, and we'll talk to you soon.